There exists a letter aged and yellowed over nearly 5 centuries, locked deep within the Vatican's secret archives, a letter whispered about by only a handful of historians, a letter said to carry ink, tears, and the weight of a night that changed the destiny of Europe. Its author was a 14-year-old girl, Catherine de' Medici, sent from Florence to France in a political arrangement she believed would crown her with prestige, but instead bound her to a secret far darker than any official chronicle admits. Catherine entered France expecting ceremony and honor. The palace of Marseille sparkled with music and celebration, yet behind its stone corridors a hidden ritual waited, a ritual whispered among old nobles, designed not to welcome a foreign bride, but to test her, break her, and remind her that power within the French court belonged to those who watched from the shadows. 23 nobles observed the event from hidden slits in the walls, believing they were witnessing tradition, unaware they were shaping a future queen who would one day shape their fates in return. What Catherine endured that night transformed her. Her tears mixed with the pressure of deep fear. Her childhood vanished, and in its place grew a silent resolve. She walked the palace halls in the days after with calm steps and lowered eyes, yet inside her mind she recorded every face, every voice, every whisper, slowly building a private list of names, a list that would guide her through the next decades of her life. Catherine had been trained in the convent of St. Lucy. She knew languages, diplomacy, Latin, philosophy, and the properties of herbs and remedies, knowledge that could heal or harm depending on the hand that used it. Unlike other women of her age, she understood political patterns and alliances, and after her wedding night this knowledge became her armor. She learned the first rule of survival in a court filled with secrets: reveal nothing, observe everything. Years passed as she maintained the image of a calm and dutiful wife. Yet every night she returned to her secret diary, updating her list of the 23 nobles who had watched her suffering in silence. She studied them carefully, their schedules, their weaknesses, their loyalties. She refined her strategies with the patience of a queen in the making, waiting for the exact moment when power would tilt in her favor. Her first step came 3 years later. One name on her list, a noble who had enjoyed mocking her silence, became the initial target. Catherine selected a subtle method, a small measured mixture from the palace herb chamber, chosen for its slow and quiet effect. When the noble collapsed, the court whispered of illness and misfortune, and Catherine remained in the background with a calm expression, quietly crossing the first name from her list. She proceeded carefully, spacing each event by months or years, shaping a pattern so invisible that the court never suspected a single source. One by one, the witnesses of that night faded from the palace, each passing marked in Catherine's diary, each one bringing her closer to reclaiming the dignity taken from her as a child. Yet throughout this, she maintained grace, appearing devoted to France, attentive to her duties, and loyal to her husband. Among all the names on her list, one stood above the rest: Diane de Poitiers, the influential woman who guided Prince Henry and shaped the ritual Catherine endured. Removing Diane required a level of patience unmatched by any of the earlier moves. Catherine chose a method that unfolded over years, a subtle weakening through small unnoticed measures, gentle enough to escape detection, yet steady enough to erode Diane's strength, while the court remained unaware, thinking time alone was the cause of her decline. Throughout these years, Catherine never broke her mask. She attended banquets, ceremonies, and councils with composure, her eyes calm yet observant, as she watched Diane slowly lose the brilliance she once held, until finally, at the age of 66, Diane passed, leaving Catherine closer than ever to completing the list that had lived inside her for decades. But one name remained, the most important name: Henry, her husband, the man who stood at the center of that night long ago. Catherine understood that his end could not resemble the others. It needed to be symbolic, a moment woven into history, a moment remembered by all who witnessed it. And the opportunity arrived in July of 1559, during a grand jousting tournament celebrating peace between France and Spain. The king faced Captain Gabriel de Montgomery in a display of royal skill. The crowd roared with excitement, and from her royal box Catherine watched with an expression no one could decipher, when the lances clashed, a splinter pierced Henry's helmet, striking near his eye. The wound began a long decline, 10 days of struggle, confusion, and silence. Modern researchers examining the preserved lance believe an unknown organic substance may have coated the weapon, a detail that deepens the mystery surrounding that day. When Henry finally passed, Catherine stepped into a level of power she had prepared for since her youth. She became the guiding force of France, shaping political alliances, navigating wars, and influencing the fate of Europe with the precision of someone who had learned long ago that knowledge is the sharpest blade in any court. Her secret list was complete, and no witness remained to recall the night that redefined her life. Yet Catherine's story is only one thread in a wider tapestry hidden behind palace walls. Vatican documents mention other royal women shaped by suffering who found strength in the shadows. Mary Tudor left writings hinting at secret punishments. Isabella of Bavaria recorded coded notes about alchemical experiments, and Lucretia Borgia documented mixtures so complex that modern science struggles to replicate them. These stories suggest a hidden network of women who survived betrayal and used their intelligence to influence history in ways rarely acknowledged in official records. Catherine de' Medici's forbidden letter remains sealed in the depths of the Vatican, its contents known only to a select few. But what we have uncovered today is a glimpse into a world where power lived in silence, where knowledge became a weapon, and where a young girl transformed into one of the most formidable queens of her era. Which historical figure should we explore next? Because the deeper we go into the shadows of history, the more we realize that the past still speaks, waiting for those willing to listen.